But it's basically this idea of the hero's journey, right? Which is now taught in universities. Every film you make, every marketing person knows the hero's journey. What are the main elements of the hero's journey? And the reason for that is because it's a universal language of how we make meaning of the world around us. We don't make meaning in just sort of separate, isolated concepts. We make meaning in storytelling narratives. It sticks that way, right? So I think it's very primal in us all, and that's why we love films and theater plays and operas and ballets and books, things like that.
And yet it's interesting that so many business owners struggle to come up with a convincing storyline and to be able to tell their own story for their business in order to
Yeah,
find the right
yeah.
customers or investment and that's something that you've played heavily into, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an art, but anybody can learn it. That's sort of the beautiful thing about it. So we've helped a bunch of tech startup founders to uh, sort of position their brand not only for the customer but also no less importantly for the investor. It's just a different story. You have to understand what is the story you're telling to the investor, right? And once you put that hat on of the hero's journey, once you understand sort of these pillar concepts, it becomes incredibly powerful. But if you don't know, all you're doing is throwing facts or stats at the person, and things that you think will convince them, and they don't. And so a lot of, especially tech founders, they're really not storytellers by neither by talent or by training. They're coders, they're engineers. So they know how to build things, but they don't know how to tell the story of the things they built. So that's sort of one of the things that I do. I have a marketing company that does some of that stuff, and now does it increasingly actually for people who are speakers, writers, influencers, coaches, because they need a personal brand. Personally, like, it's the best time in the history of humanity to develop your personal brand. And so I'm helping somebody really tell their story well, and how do you position it, package it, how do you tell it organically and tap into the deepest passions of the person, which makes them much more credible, much more authoritative. It's a beautiful thing as well, right? So, and it's hard to do it yourself. Like, even for
It
me,
is.
right?
Yeah.
This is what I do for others. It's hard work to do because you are objectively subjective about your thing. So you have to really, really focus about your own brand. And I do it continuously. Like, it does not stop. The rebranding of me never stops because it's a little slower and harder to tell the story objectively, right, from the outside in.
It's an evolving story, right?
It really is, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting. Literally the last episode that we recorded was a second visit to the show by Adrian Fuller, who started his career in Hollywood, learning from some of the greatest producers the world's ever seen. And, he tells the very first episode he did, he dived into the hero's journey. And it's the first time. I'm not marketing classically trained, right? Like, I've not been to university and studied marketing or sales.
Yeah,
Part of the
yeah.
reason why I wanted to build the podcast in the first place, because I like to absorb from other people and understand things.
Mhm.
And he talked me through the concept of hero's journey. And I just thought, you know what? None of that's complicated.
It's not,
It's
yeah.
so simple.
Yeah,
It's
once you
not.
get the blueprint, you know what to do. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah,
you said, I think it's innate. So we're consciously seeking it out. We just don't know that we're doing it. Like, it's like you hear a story, and if you haven't got the bad guy there, the evil in the world, or the injustice that's
yeah,
been done to the hero, you can't say that that's why the story isn't resonating, but you just don't feel the
exactly.
highs and the lows that you should do if the story's being told properly. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then I get
yeah.
a group of people who are like, well, I don't want to tell a story for my business because my business is, conversation analytics, or it's AI, and it's this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, but people don't care about your product, especially investors.
They
They
really
don't
don't.
care
Yeah.
about your product so much. They want to know about you and the journey you've been on and the founding team and how did you get where you are? Why should they believe in what you can do? And I think that's the real power behind a story is being able to convey your values through your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even a higher level of storytelling when you're marketing a business is you make the client, the customer, your hero. And then through your marketing efforts, you tell their story to them. And that is sort of the higher level of the art form, I think, in marketing and strategy.
So then you've got a really global perspective on so many things, and I could sit here quite happily and pick your brains for hours on some of the things that you've been through.